Hi, my name is Isabel Stead, and today I'm sharing with you the story of Little Red Riding Hood by Charles Perrault. I'm not sure how that's said. Okay. So, once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived with her mother in one side of the village. I'm not sure what the name of the village was, but inside the village, there was one village, a big forest, and then another village. And in between is all this really dark forest and nobody quite knows who lives within it. However, there was rumors of a big bad wolf who was roaming throughout the woods through the past while. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother gave her a red coat, and with that red coat, she wore it everywhere. One day, her mother also gave her a basket of cake and wine and some other baked goods and told her to take it to her grandma's house. However, her grandma lived on the opposite side of the village, on the village that's on the opposite side of the forest. So Little Red Riding Hood always thought to herself, gosh, it must be a really long, treacherous walk. So anyways, when she embarks on her journey, she picks up the basket, she puts on her cape, and she takes off. Before she steps foot into the forest, she sees a sign, and that sign basically explains that to be cautious and be careful, and everyone who was aware of her going on her journey was telling her how she should be careful and to watch out and not stray from that path. So as she gets into the woods, she starts walking on the path, and all of a sudden she looks up and she realizes the sun's setting. As the sun is finally setting, she thinks, oh gosh, it's gonna get dark and she won't be able to find her way unless she has light. So her thinking to herself, I'm gonna find a new path. So she takes it upon herself, leaves the path, and decides to make her own shortcut. That shortcut finally takes her to a dead end where she gets completely lost. Now she's very, very far from that path. When she reaches that spot and she's confused and scared and lost, she doesn't know where to go. She looks around, and all of a sudden, in the corner of her eye, she sees a wolf come out of nowhere. Who is the wolf? The big bad wolf. So anyways, he comes up and he approaches her and he starts asking questions. He's like, hey, what's in your basket? Where are you going? And Little Red Riding Hood, being the little sweet girl she is, told him that she was going to her grandma's house and to deliver all of these baked goods so that her grandma is set for the next week with food. The wolf finally starts talking to her even more, and he's like, well, can I go? And she's like, no, this is just me. This is my grandma. So fast forward, the wolf finally leaves her alone, and they say their goodbyes. And the wolf manages to track all the way to the grandma's house and begins waiting for Little Red Riding Hood. Once Little Red Riding Hood finally arrives, she sees the door creaked open. Looking at the door, she's a bit concerned because it's only her grandma who lives alone. She wasn't expecting anybody else. Her grandma doesn't ever leave the house, so she was very worried when she saw that because she started to begin to wonder what had happened. She walks into the house, and when she sees a bunch of clothes and all of her bedding all over the place. Her house is a mess, and she's even more concerned because she's very, very confused. Little Red Riding Hood begins to walk into her grandma's room to see her laying in her bed. However, when the wolf arrived, he had eaten the grandma. Yeah, he ate the grandma, and now the grandma's inside the wolf's stomach. And now that the wolf's stomach is full with the grandma, he has a big stomach. So when laying in the sheets in the bed of the grandma, you just see a big lump. So that big lump happened to be the grandma, right? Okay. Now Little Red Riding Hood, she looks very close at the wolf, and she's like, something seems really off. Grandma, you don't look yourself. So the Little Red Riding Hood takes a little step closer, and the wolf is like, well, I just feel a little sick. And then she takes another step even closer, and the wolf tries to eat her right up. So when the wolf tries to eat her right up, she screams. She screams so loud that anyone throughout the entire forest on both sides of the village, on both sides of the forest, could hear. So when she screamed, a huntsman not too far behind on the path, he hears this little girl scream. And so instantly, he decided to speed up his journey, and he stumbles upon the grandma's house. When he reaches the grandma's house, he sees exactly what happened, Little Red Riding Hood fighting the big bad wolf. So when he starts to fight the big bad wolf, he was able to take his dagger and stab him and kill him and rip the grandma right out of his stomach and save Little Red Riding Hood and the grandma. Once they are both saved, both grandma and Little Red Riding Hood thank the huntsman and thank him and send him on his way, and they give him some of his baked goods. Once the huntsman leaves, the Little Red Riding Hood, she goes outside and gathers rocks and then fills his dead body with rocks. Once his dead body is filled with rocks, they take him outside, they dispose of him, and then Little Red Riding Hood enjoys her cake with her grandma. And then once they finish enjoying their cake, she stays the night because then she's scared, and that is the end of the story. And they live happily ever after.